It's a beautiful day today. Just started raining out of nowhere all of a sudden, and I haven't really done any live streams. I did one last night on the taxes, but I went and deleted it because I haven't filed for mine yet. Some people are saying that they got a lot on their taxes back. Some people saying they didn't. I didn't file for mine yet, so I'm gonna wait. I'm hoping and praying on the big beautiful tax bill that I'll get something back. I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, I don't know how long this video is going to be, maybe 20 minutes or so. I'll try to keep it short and simple, I guess. First and foremost, the Super Bowl rematch. We're going to have Seahawks and Patriots square off in a rematch from the last time where, the Seahawks should have ran the ball in the end zone. And I guess Marshawn Lynch is now saying that that game was rigged, that they purposely called for a pass play or something like that. I think he was trying to blame Pete Carroll for throwing the game or whatever. I don't know if there's necessarily any truth to that, but the same sense, Seattle would have been back-to-back champions if I'm correct, and should have been. And that was probably one of the most weirdest calls in NFL history. Well, now Seattle's back in the bowl, taking on New England yet again. And this time it's, two different sides of the coin. You're going to have Drake May and the Patriots going off against Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. And, man, I'll tell you, you're a Seahawks fan, you're probably going to want a rematch, right? Because this is going to say, okay, we're going to win the game. Now, we should have won. And if you're a Patriots fan, you're like, well, let's just go ahead and make them relive that moment and just, I guess, kind of stick it to them again. I've been watching a lot of ESPN breakdown of this game, but I'll tell you what. It's going to come down to this. It's going to come down to this, and I'll just keep it short, keep it simple. You can go through the X's and O's of the game and the whole breakdown, but it's really going to come down to this. Can New England's defense, the defense that's only been allowing an average of 8 points a game, right, if you include all three of the teams they played in the playoffs, against us, against the Chargers, against the Broncos, only allowing an average of 8 to 9 points a game, are they going to be able to stop the Seattle's offense in a team that's been averaging 36 points a game on offense for the Seattle Seahawks? That's the biggest question to me. Is New England's defense going to stop Seattle's offense? That's the biggest question. Because the Seahawks have been putting up some sick numbers offensively in the playoffs. And that's really what it's just going to come down to. Because I think if the Seahawks are going to score 30, 40-plus points, I don't know if New England's going to be able to keep up with that. If you got Sam Darnold just having a lights-out season like he is right now and does it in the Super Bowl, I don't see them, the Patriots going to be able to keep up with the Seahawks if that is the case. What's going on, people? Can y'all hear me or am I mute again? Let me see. No, I'm not mute. Okay. They can hear me. That's good. I'm glad to hear that, Marvin. Sometimes YouTube's a little sketchy about this shit. But yeah, what I predict is going to happen in this game is going to start off like low scoring. I think if you're Seattle, you want the ball to start the game off. I think that going up 7-0 is very important. Get the ball to start it off. Seattle knows what they're capable of offensively. Can they be able to penetrate that Patriot defense? And if they can score right off the bat, that's going to set the tone right away. Like I said, the Patriots defense is going to be an integral factor in this game. Again, they've been holding teams 8 points, an average of 8, 9 points a game. If you include the average of the Chargers only scoring 3, Denver only put up, 7? We put up 16. I mean, are they going to be able to contain? Are they going to be able to stop Sam Darnold? That's going to be the biggest question. What I predict is going to happen is Seattle goes up at halftime, up maybe like 14-6. I think the final score, you're looking at, I'm going to say Seattle 27, Patriots 24. And I think Seattle gets it done this time. They get the rematch in, and Seattle gets what they're, I don't know how many Super Bowls they have. I think they just have, 4 or whatever, 3. I don't know how many they've had in the past. I don't keep track with history stats like that. And if I do, I probably forgot. But I'm going to go ahead and go with the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl, man. So if you're Brandon Rodgers or Seahawks Nest or any of these other guys that do videos, or even some of these TikTokers that are Seahawks fans, you're probably going to have something to look forward to, man. Break that champagne bottle. And if you're New England, man, you got 6 Super Bowls and you get a 7th one. That's just a way to just stick it to the fan base again. Just a way to just stick it to the NFL again and saying, we got another dynasty in the making. There's more pressure. This is my opinion. There's more pressure for the Seahawks to win than it is for the Patriots to lose. And the reason why is because New England's been to 12 Super Bowls. They've won 6 of them, so they damn near win 50% of the time. Now you're going up against the Seattle Seahawks, who the pressure, I think, is going to be more on for them to win because they're considered the good guys. And the Patriots always kind of had like this bad boy stigma to them. And the whole, all the scandals they had in the past and blah, blah, blah. And, so the natural hate for the Patriots is still there. And I just think that if you're Seattle, the pressure's on you to have to win this game more. You can't lose to the Patriots twice. You just can't do it. You have to beat New England. You have to, man. Because if not, guess what? We're going to hear from Patriots fans for the whole offseason. And imagine having to live through another dynasty of the Patriots in modern era. Like, just imagine if New England wins this year, they get 7, fans are all rallied up again from New England, and all we have to hear about is our team's great and your team's trash and blah, blah, blah. It just adds to it. The whole ring count, and they got 8,000 or 7,000 rings, what it seems like. And it's just like another to add to the trophy case and just more pressure to add for the rest of us. So you have to kind of root for the underdog. You know what I'm saying? And I want to root for the underdog. I want to root for the Seahawks to actually pull off the win, get a second Super Bowl, and it's not personal, Patriots fans. I hope you're not upset, but we just can't have you winning another bowl, man. You got 6 of them, God damn it. How many more do you need? How many more Super Bowls do we need from New England? They're saying we don't need any more Super Bowls from those guys. So I'm going to be rooting for Seattle as the underdog. And don't get me wrong. If New England does win, they find out some way to win this game, then yeah, I'll give them their flowers and I'll say, okay, hey, cool. You got your Super Bowl, 7 rings, and we'll be hearing about it all off season. Is this team another dynasty? Are they going to win an 8th and a 9th championship? Oh, my God. I'm telling you, we have to stop the Patriots from fucking winning again, bro. On God. They can't win another Super Bowl, man. We have to figure out a way to beat them, man. We can't stop. We can't allow Patriots another Super Bowl. I'm sorry. We just can't do it, bro. The Seahawks, you got to win. You have to win this game, bro. You got to shut that whole shit. If you win this Super Bowl game, that can supersede that last Super Bowl y'all lost to the Patriots. And everybody, everybody would be, would be satisfied because they'll say, okay, you lost the one that Russell Wilson should have won. Now you win this one with Sam Darnold. Nobody thought that Sam Darnold was going to win with Seattle. So it would be a great underdog story for the NFL to say, here's a journeyman. Sam Darnold's been, 5, 6 teams. Now all of a sudden, he's a Super Bowl champion. Who would have expected Sam Darnold to win a Super Bowl? It would be great for an NFL story. And I think that if you're other than a Patriots fan, you're going to be, well, I guess if you're an NFC West fan, you're probably going to root against the Seahawks. So if you're 49ers, Rams, or Cardinals fans, you're probably going to be rooting for the Patriots. Understandable. But the rest of the league is going to have to root. You're going to have to fucking root for the Seahawks, dude. They got to win, man. I'm no Patriots hater now, but they beat us in the playoffs. I'm just saying, I want Seahawks to win, bro. And I'll be rooting for Seattle. I hope the Seahawks win this Super Bowl, man. I really do. It's this Sunday. Unfortunately, I got to work a 12-hour shift. And so because of that, yeah, I won't be able to watch the game, unfortunately. I'll have to check the highlights out or whatever. I'll be at work. But yeah, just to give my predictions, I think Seahawks score 27, Patriots score 24. I think it's going to be a low-scoring first-half game, like 14-6 Seahawks. And then I think in the third quarter, you're going to see a little bit more scoring on the Patriots end. This game's going to, go back and forth. Is the Seahawks going to have a game-winning drive is going to be the question. I think it's a highly possibility. Game's tied at 24, maybe 3.5 minutes left. Seattle drives the ball down the field and lines himself up for the game-winning field goal. Maybe it's a nice little 44-yarder or something like that, and they win, and they end up taking the Super Bowl. But, man, I'll tell you, it's I just don't understand how it's so easy for some teams to get to the Super Bowl, to get to the championship, to have trophies and stuff, and then there's just other teams that just can either barely make the playoffs or, they barely can, muster up a win in the wild card round, and it just sucks, man. It sucks. Nonetheless, my Super Bowl winner is Seattle defeats the Patriots. And I don't know what Super Bowl this is right now. Super Bowl, 60 or 59? Something like that. I don't know. So many damn Super Bowls. It's just insane, right? Nonetheless, man, I got Seattle to win, and I got them hoisting a trophy. And shout out to Seahawks fans. I'm rooting for you, bro. On God, I'm rooting for you to win, man. I really hope you guys get the dub, man. I'm rooting for the underdogs. Patriots Nation's not gonna like this video. Nonetheless, man, I watched the Royal Rumble. Like, I saw some of the matches. Drew McIntyre defeated Sami Zayn, and I watched the Women's Rumble, the Men's Rumble. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I think wrestling has got kind of stale. It's not the same like it used to be. I mean, I get it. I think that what's going to end up happening is WrestleMania, what is it, for next year? It's supposed to be in Saudi Arabia. And they're building the stadium for like 100,000 fans. It's supposed to be the most the highest attendance ever. It's going to break the one in Dallas. I predict it's going to happen, obviously. They're having the WrestleMania in Vegas this year, which they just previously had in Vegas. I think a lot of it has to do with the economy. To be honest with you, that probably plays a big factor, which is why they're selecting certain places to go. I think they're going to start having pay-per-views overseas now. I predict it's going to happen. And it already is. WrestleMania next year in Saudi Arabia. And I don't know what matches they're going to put in place for this year, but rumor has it that next year they're going to have a Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to fight CM Punk in his last match. That'll be for Mania next year. Roman Reigns versus The Rock. The Hardy Boys versus what is it? The New Day versus the Usos, triple threat. Those are all matches that sort of been rumored to be in Saudi Arabia next year. So I don't know if they're gonna go like if they're gonna have an all-in WrestleMania this year for Vegas because all the good matches it seems like they're saving for the following year in Saudi Arabia, and respectfully so. I think that that's it's probably strategic for them to do so. Now, as far as the Rumble was concerned, the men's Rumble very lackluster. Roman Reigns won. That was expected. Rumors is they're going to put the belts on him. They're going to give Roman Reigns a championship, and then next year he'll challenge The Rock. And that's supposed to be Rock Roman set up for Saudi Arabia's WrestleMania next year. That's what I'm hearing. I was okay with the winner. I thought Roman Reigns was the well-deserved winner that should have won, but at the same time, the men's Royal Rumble sucked. It was just boring, lackluster. Brock Lesnar, no disrespect, he definitely looks like, not to judge him, but he put on a lot of weight, and he just looks terrible in the ring. I just saw the Rumble match, and it's like, he looks out of shape. And honestly, I think Brock Lesnar is going to retire pretty soon. He's definitely not the same Brock Lesnar for 5-10 years ago. Age is, respectfully so, age catches up with everybody. And I just think with Brock Lesnar, he doesn't have that same it factor he had anymore. Like in the ring, he looks slow, lethargic. He just looked terrible. And he looks out of shape too. It just looks really bad. And I just think at this point, Brock Lesnar is probably just going to, he's going to be a guy that's probably going to pull some cameos here or there. May have depending on the pay-per-view, the match card, if the money's right, he'll probably still wrestle like part-time or sub-part-time, but I think Brock Lesnar is probably going to retire pretty soon. I could honestly see it. AJ Styles retired. He got put to sleep by Gunther, so Gunther's retired 3 people now. Goldberg, John Cena, now, AJ Styles. I know AJ said he was wrestling this year. It was his last year, but I didn't think it was going to be at the Royal Rumble. But from what I'm hearing, AJ Styles is probably going to retire in TNA or AEW, and he's probably going to pull some, he's probably going to be wrestling for them for a little bit till it's time for him to retire. Respectfully so, his time with WWE is over, but his time with other, TNA and all that, he might still do some matches there for at least the rest of the year, and then from there, retire. Respectfully so, but yeah, Rey Mysterio. Watched an interview on him the other day, and he said by the age of 50, he's going to retire. So Rey Mysterio's looks like to me like he's out. He's on the verge of also retiring. So all these great legends growing up that I got to see in my childhood, and they're all going to retire. It just, God, life goes by so fast. We just take life for granted so much. And all my favorite wrestlers are all going to retire, and it's just going to be a complete new slate of wrestlers. And it's just, I was watching the Royal Rumble, and I saw some of these new wrestlers they had, and it's just, I guess if you're a child or a kid, it's good. I mean, wrestling's always been a kid's show. So I get it. I get why, for these new guys, I don't like a lot of them, but for the kids, I guess they'll have somebody to watch growing up. I guess that's okay, but for me personally, I can't get into that shit anymore. I just don't like a lot of the characters. I just don't like a lot of their mic work. A lot of them look bland and stale. That maybe I'm just getting older now, and maybe I just outgrew wrestling. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm not a fan of wrestling anymore because I just outgrown it. Maybe that's it. It's just, I see a lot of these new guys, and maybe other than a handful of them, the other they all look the same. They all look boring. The storylines look kind of blandish, PG, worse than PG. I don't know, man. It's kind of one of those things where, again, it's probably just for the kids now. The kids will they'll grow up and they'll watch wrestling and they'll get behind these new guys. There was only like maybe one of the new wrestlers that I saw that I kind of mildly like, and that was that Oba Femi or whatever from NXT, the NXT champion. When he came out to his like entrance for the Royal Rumble, I was like, man, that was pretty cool. Like, I actually kind of liked his character. And then after that, everybody else that just came out was kind of like, it's kind of just fell flat. I just didn't really like the Rumble. The men's Rumble was terrible. The women's Rumble, I mean, it was okay. Like, Brie Bella came back, the Bella Twins or whatever. I mean, I guess that's okay. I mean, because it's like, that was like really the kind of only like spark that I saw. That was like a surprise entry or whatever. And other than NXT debuts, people that are debuting from NXT, it really wasn't anything spectacular. Like I said, Liv Morgan won. That was the right call, the right pick. She won the Rumble. And Roman Reigns won. I think the picks were good. The picks for the Rumble winners were great. It's just the matches were so fucking boring. So you had Sami Zayn against Drew McIntyre in another, like my opinion, a stale match. I think McIntyre's now 12-0 against Sami, even though Sami's never lost in Saudi Arabia, but it just wasn't, there was just really nothing exciting for wrestling anymore. Maybe I think that's kind of like why WWE is now traveling outside of the U.S. because I just don't think the market here is for it anymore. I mean, other than if you're going to go to maybe Miami, New York City, or Vegas, those really are going to be the only three cities you're going to make money off of today's current wrestling, which is more of a kid's show. And that's okay, but the problem is if the adults are not really into it, they're not really going to want to, they're not going to be enticed to want to take their kids to the show, right? So you're going to have sort of this dilemma, and plus the economy plays a big role too, because now you're like, oh shit, I can't afford this or I can't afford that. So now what's up, Azul? So now it's like, you're like, is it really worth going to a wrestling event where I only maybe like a handful of guys? I just can't get behind a lot of these guys. And again, I know I'm getting older, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I think wrestling is just kind of a thing of the past now. That's why I noticed, like, when the new WWE game's coming out, was it the 2K26? One of the things they're trying to keep pushing for is the My GM mode or My Faction mode, and then they're also pulling the WWF Attitude Era. And it's like, that's the whole focal point of their game, is to push the Attitude Era. That's all they're really talking about is, oh, we're going to bring the Attitude Era. It's like, okay, that's great. I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. You kind of can relive certain moments during the Attitude Era that you kind of like slightly enjoy. But it's like, you can't even really get behind any of today's current wrestlers. A lot of them, like I said, are boring and stale. No offense, just the truth. And except for maybe a handful of guys. And so you can't push their storylines because they're not entertaining enough. So the only thing you have left is the Attitude Era. So why even come out with a wrestling game if that's the case? You might as well just come out with... They could just rehash the old school wrestling games, like Raw versus SmackDown. SmackDown for the PlayStation series absolutely killed it. Know your role, then shut your mouth, then here comes the pain and all that. Great wrestling games. In fact, I even think, maybe I'm going a little overboard saying this, if you really want to get in touch with fan base with your 80s and 90s kids, or early 2000s, why don't you just bring back the Nintendo 64? Like, they kind of rumored about it, but that rumor kind of died down. Why not just bring the Nintendo 64 back, rehash it, and bring back a remastered No Mercy a remastered WrestleMania and bring back, like with that current game setting, and you can bring back some of the coolest systems back then when I was growing up. Like, you know, I wasn't really a Dreamcast fan. I wasn't a fan of the GameCube. The Xbox one of the greatest systems ever. Of course, if you want to even go older than that, you can go to the Sega Genesis and, the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo and stuff like that. But I think they should just rehash some old school wrestling games and bring those out, and then get, if you're trying to appeal to that older crowd, that Attitude Era crowd, I think that would be really cool if you did something like that. I think there's a lot of money to be made if you were to rehash old systems and old games. Marvin said it's pretty pathetic that all they could do is push the Attitude Era just to make some crap game and they charge $150. Yep, and that's another thing too. $150 for the new WWE 2K26. If you want all the features, if you want all this, the whole cool stuff, $150. And I knew when they were coming out with that game it was going to happen. I said, "Yep, they're going to charge $120, easily $120 for that game." And I was wrong. It was actually higher. It's $150. So they want $150 for that game, bro, for a wrestling game. Marvin said, "I'm still waiting for them to up the entrance of Royal Rumble participants in the ring." You mean like, because it currently has 8. So it's a 30-man Royal Rumble, but you can only have up to 8 in the ring at one time. Yeah, I think they have an engine big enough to put more in the ring. I think at least 12. I think 12, maybe even possibly 16. And maybe just the fan in me. You got War Games with 2 rings, right? 2 rings, 8 guys. Why can't you do that for the Rumble? Just food for thought. The Royal Rumble is one of the most popular matches on the game. So just go ahead and just go ahead and say, okay, we're going to get a bigger engine. We're going to have up to 12 guys in the ring, which I think that's fair. 12 guys. And then have 2 rings for the Royal Rumble since we do it for War Games. I think that would be a cool concept. I know WCW did that a long time ago with the World War III event. They had 3 rings, 60 men. Now, they'll probably never do that. But I think 2 rings, a 30-man battle royal, and you got up to 12 participants can enter the ring. You have the engine big enough for that. With the technology, I think they can get it done. They're just being lazy. So that means you get to see you actually get to see a Survivor Series match where there's actually 8 people involved. Because the Survivor Series was always 5v5 or 4v4. So why don't you just go ahead and say, okay, well, if you can have up to, if the Survivor Series has up to 4 versus 4 or 5 versus 5, then why can't you have those numbers in those match types and also in the Royal Rumble? To me personally, I think if they did something like that, that would be the coolest concept ever. But to me, I think the best wrestling games of all time is, of course, the original SmackDown series. You're gonna have, No Mercy, WrestleMania, WCW NWO World Tour. There's probably some other games. WCW NWO Revenge, that's an okay game. I thought the computers kind of sucked on there. Computer mode kind of was trash. But I like the game, the concept, and the fact, that you had all your old WCW wrestlers and Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and the Wolfpack and the NWO and Goldberg and, Raven and the Flock and Billy Kidman and, Diamond Dallas Page and the Diamond Cutter, which is now Randy Orton's move with the RKO, but only his is more of a kind of glides into you, like a standing RKO, if that makes sense. But yeah, other than that, wrestling today is, I thought the Indies wrestling was going to pick up. I was a real big fan of Indies wrestling back in like 2015, about 2020. And it seemed like, I guess to me, since COVID happened, it seems like to me like sports have kind of gone downhill. Entertainment value's gone downhill. And to me, I think just wrestling, basketball, football, all in general has just kind of been kind of blandish. I think as people are focusing more on their health, their finances, and they just don't simply have the time to just focus on the things that they once loved growing up. So I think economical factors do play a role. Do play a role. That's what I say when we crashed the economy in 2020, the whole COVID bullshit, whether we all agree or disagree with it, one thing we could say for certain that life has definitely changed. Life has definitely changed since 2020. Like it's definitely a different turn. You kind of look at things differently now. The way that you once did. You kind of view, your interests and hobbies and say, what's more important to me? You know, is it more important to me to make money, to do this, and that, or is it more important for me to do the bullshit that I used to do and go out every day, or do this, or do that, or chase this person, or do this? You just realize, what's more important to you, and even things like your like side hobbies, like going to wrestling events, vacationing. Maybe the economy has kind of had a trickle down effect in terms of how people spend and how people go out and find entertainment. Like for me, I used to hate going to the movies. Now it's been kind of a thing. I like kind of either going by myself or I kind of like going with other people. And I kind of picked up on going to the movies again. I used to never like that. I used to never been like a movie guy. I used to always like watch movies at my house. But even going to the movies nowadays, it's not the same. It's dead in there half the time, unless it's just like a Marvel movie, or if it's like a must see movie. Then people might come to the theaters like on a Friday night, Saturday night. But if it's not a must see, like Marvel movie or whatever, DC, people are not excited to go out to movie theaters no more. Now they could just watch it at their house. Just, they have like the streaming online and just watching all that online now. So people are just not going out as much, if that kind of makes sense. And so, will things ever be back to normal, Marvin says. If you would have told me this back in like 2020, 2021, I would have been like, you know what? It is possible that I think that we can go back to normal, like have a normal life and everything's hunky dory and, people are excited and, maybe everything's not so expensive and people can go out and just and have a good time and be able to enjoy life the way it once was. And it's like, now you got inflation and everything's so high and stuff. I think people just, are kind of burned out. If that makes sense. We're burned out of options at this point. We're burned out and just wanting to do anything. I'm not a guy for big crowds, but what sucks? Going to a theater, going out to eat, going out here, going out there, and it's dead and no one's there because no one can afford the prices. So they just figure out that eating from home is a lot more affordable than going out. And then they're like, well, yeah, I do like wrestling, but is it really worth going to an event when I could just sit at the house and watch for free on Netflix? Or I could watch it on Prime, or I could watch it on YouTube even. YouTube has old school wrestling stuff you can watch, and it's just, so maybe the economy sort of plays a role into it. Maybe people are just, they burned out. I mean, do you really blame them? But yeah, but wrestling in general, I think maybe could pick up, but the only way they would do that is the economy would have to change. I think people's interest for things that they once loved would pick up again if they knew that they had the money to go out and enjoy it. And they had the money to spend to go out to enjoy it. But with inflation and everything being so high and the dollar just being, on the verge of collapse, thanks for the third like, whoever like that. I think it's going to be difficult for, people to find that enjoyment they once had, because they're like, I got to focus more on bills. I got to focus more on car note. I got to focus more on my medical insurance. I got to focus more on uh, paying this, and that. I don't have the money I once had to where I could splurge and wine and dine and go out and, where you could get wings at affordable price. $20 could get you like a 20-piece wings and a Diet Coke. Now you're lucky to even get that just for $20. It's just, or at least that count. I mean, hell, even like a 6-piece and 8-piece is like damn about $15. So like what once costed like under $20 to have a good time is now almost double, triple that. So it's definitely, I think, taking a toll and effect on these sporting events, and people just saying, you know what, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it really worth me investing hundreds of dollars, or pay my light bill, or pay my mortgage note, or pay my car note? Those questions, I think, come into people's minds when it comes out to going out. I've never seen it this bad. Like going to a movie theater on a Friday night, only like 8 people show up. It's like, really? Like, wow. I remember back in the day growing up, it was like, you can go to the movie theater on any day and it was fucking packed. It was packed, and people just enjoyed it, and they said, hey, the drinks and the food was cheap, and you had a good time. I mean, the movie's always kind of been expensive, but they weren't that bad. Now it's just, oh my God. It's astronomical with these prices, And like I said, once you destroy the economy and you destroy people's pockets and their wallets, it's going to play a big role into how they spend and how they go out. And it's going to have an effect on a lot of these places you go to. As far as wrestling is concerned, I used to be all for the indies. Even going to an indie show now is like $40. Some places they want like $40-$50. Like, that's just to get in there. It used to only be like $10. Like, if you pay $10-$15 back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, you pay to get in for $15 just to get in. If you wanted VIP, it was like $40 to sit in the front, watch the wrestlers up front. Now it's like they want that just to go in the building, and then if it's a certain wrestler there, they want $80, $100 to go to a wrestling event. I'm like, you are crazy. I'm not going to no damn wrestling event for no damn $100 or no $80. Hell nah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to get out of the house, but not that. I'm not spending no $100 to walk in a building like that. Fuck that shit. And then the T-shirts, everything's high. The food, the vending is expensive. It's like, man, you're gonna be walking out paying $200. I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that shit, man. That's why I said, like, me personally, I don't even think wrestling is all that exciting anymore for me to even be dishing that kind of money out. There's a lot of the matches look stale. A lot of wrestlers look like they don't want to be there. A lot of them put up half-ass fucking promos. It's just, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to pass. I'm just going to watch all the old school wrestling. Me personally, this WWE 2K26 game is probably going to be the same one as last year. Now it's just, okay, we're just going to push the Attitude Era. It's like, I mean, it's great, but why don't you just make the No Mercy game? Like, y'all ever played No Mercy for N64? If you haven't, it's one of the greatest games of all time. Why don't you just bring back that game and just build on the same engine and build it back? I'm telling you, you'll make a sick load of money. On God, you'll make a lot of money. And do the same thing with the SmackDown series for PlayStation. I'm telling you, man, I think there's a lot more money on the table to do that. But other than that, am I even looking for WrestleMania this year? Have they even been promoting WrestleMania this year? I mean, really, it seems like to me they're promoting WrestleMania for next year more. For the one for Saudi Arabia, it seems like to me like they're leaking out information on the rumored matches for next year. It looks like this year is just going to be irrelevant. Like it's just going to be a subpar match card. Probably going to be like a bunch of rematches, you know. I mean, obviously, it looks like it's going to be Roman Reigns versus CM Punk at Mania. I just don't think WrestleMania in Vegas this year is going to be exciting. But I do think next year in Saudi Arabia it is. I think absolutely Saudi Arabia's WrestleMania is going to be pretty good. And it'll be new for the fans there because they've never got to experience a WrestleMania. And I just think, man, wrestling might be dead in the United States. They may have to go overseas and get their entertainment there. Seems like to me that's kind of where we're headed to. Is a lot of like, you know, always joke around about our jobs going overseas. Well, now looks like companies will start doing the same for like entertainment. Why do you think the NFL is like so preoccupied and like going global and saying how they want to build like franchises in Europe and Canada, and which is a great idea. I mean, it you know, the traveling is going to be really a big issue if teams having to travel from outside the USA to Europe and vice versa, like the London, the Berlin games, the Madrid. I mean, I could see a team in Mexico City because it's right down past the southern border. I could see a team in Toronto or Vancouver. They should have an NFL team in Vancouver and an NFL team in Toronto. And I definitely would pull for one in Mexico City. But now traveling to Europe, you probably have to open up at least 4 or 5 teams there. So if the NFL is going to want to really go all in on this whole like global entity of eventually making teams to add to the NFL, you're probably going to have to add at least another 8, 16 teams. It's going to be a lot. So it's going to be, you're going to have a bigger playoff format. You would have to probably have more regular season games to be able to pull something like that off. If you're really going to like go all in on this shit. But nonetheless, I have really nothing else to say. I appreciate you guys for watching. It's my off day. I know I'm off Monday, Tuesdays now. I just got to make the best of it. We're going to movies today. I'm going to go see a movie called Send Help. And basically on the short term, it's about this. It almost kind of reminds me of the movie Castaway. If y'all seen that one with Tom Hanks, where the plane crashes, they get stuck on an island, but it's like a boss and his associate, male, female. They survive a plane crash. They're basically on a remote island, and basically what ends up happening is that I don't know if his employee had like beef with him or something, but apparently she like makes his life a living hell while he's on the island. And then he's like, I want to get off the island. I think they were like in contact. And then she's like, no, I don't want to leave. I want to stay. So then it becomes like, I don't know, maybe like a weird, she kind of like stalks him on the island, if that makes sense. I don't know how to make it out, but that movie came out today, and a couple days ago, and I want to see it. So I want to see it in theaters. The NFL should focus only in the States. Well, I could see, like I said, Vancouver and Toronto getting a team, Azul. I think Mexico City is flirting with one. I think there's been talks about Mexico City wanting a football team. I could see that happening. Definitely. I think Mexico City is a good place to host a foreign team, even Toronto and Vancouver. They have a population. So, Vancouver, Toronto, Mexico City, to me, would be my focal points of new franchises. But if you're going to do that, you're probably going to have a fourth one because every division has 4 teams. And then one conference will have 5 divisions while the other one has 4. So now you're going to have 8 franchises. If you're going to pull this off, you'd have to have 8 franchises. Because you'd have to have 5 NFC conferences, 5 AFC, with 4 in each. That's the only way you could pull it off. So I named you 3 sites. I mean, NFL loves London. So London's going to get one eventually. And then I think maybe they're going to flirt with Germany getting one. And if so, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It'll probably end up being is it'll be NFL players just getting drafted to those teams from here. It won't be any different. Like, in other words, they're not just going to draft European players to play for them unless they go through the NFL draft and then they get drafted in there. I could see that being the case. But in regards to the travel, that's going to be the issue. That's really going to be the issue, is the traveling. Having to travel to London and back to the States, that's a long ways. What do you think about an NFL team in South America? They had a game in Rio, right? I mean, the NFL is becoming a global entity. It's going to compete with the World Cup. Do I think they'll surpass the World Cup? Probably not. But it's the only sport that I think that can travel overseas. I don't think the NBA has the audience to do so. I don't see NBA basketball doing that. Like I said, if NBA does, they'll bring Vancouver back. And they'll probably put a basketball in like China. I know China is a big entity on NBA basketball. So you probably could do maybe a couple of teams in China. But again, travel is going to be a big issue. Why don't those countries create their own league? I'm down with it. Yeah, I predict that Seattle will win too, Athletic Dashie. I got Seahawks 27, Patriots 24. Who do y'all got anyway for the Patriots-Seahawks game? I didn't think New England would go back to the Super Bowl anytime soon. And boy, if they win this year, we'll never hear the end of it. It'll just be a constant reminder about how they're the shit, we're not, blah, blah, blah. Are you doing a World Cup pick'em? Absolutely. I already am. It's already in the works. I'm going to start my my soccer pick'em league. This opening day is June 11th. And I think the playoffs for soccer is like June 28th or 29th. No, I think it's the 28th. It's 104. It's 104 matches. So that's a long sample size of picks. Even if you include the draws will probably be like 20% of the games. So you still get a sample size of wins and losses, and then we'll do a playoff. Absolutely. Well, yeah, I think the NBA will do business. I got Seahawks 27, Patriots 24. That's what I got. Well, yeah, so I agree. Like I said, I think if anything, NBA's going to do games, and they're going to do games in China. I could see China having a franchise. Like I said, this is probably going to be like 10 years out the way. I don't think this will be anytime soon. Oh. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Damn, it's almost noon. I'm probably going to watch me a movie or something in a minute. Just kind of stay up, watch some movies. Maybe take a short nap. I think I deserve one. God damn it. Nah. Well, anyways, guys, I think that's pretty much it, man. I'm going to head out of here. I'm tired anyway. MLB needs to bring the Montreal Expos back. Oh, they could do that too. We had the Montreal Expos. That's what's up. And now they're the Washington Nationals. All right. Well, I don't know. Opening day for MLB is what? March, late March. That's next month. Holy shit! Damn, how this year's gone by fast, man. And just to think, NFL season will be over Sunday. We'll have the start of baseball, I guess, to watch. It's not really into baseball like that. I'm more of a casual fan. I like baseball at the end of the September. You know, that's what's up. Like I said, well, baseball for me doesn't start till like August, September. When there's like 30 games left. People are playing for the pennants and playoffs, and every game kind of matters at this point. But baseball's a long season. It's kind of hard to get into it like right at the beginning. I mean, if you're an old baseball head, I guess you enjoy the long season. But for me, nah. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get some fucking sleep because I'm tired. I'm gonna hit y'all up later.